Hey everyone, Amy here. Welcome to my Tools for Life series. Tonight I'm going to talk about anxiety. Um, One of the many reasons why I decided to start this YouTube channel is so that I can share my own story, my own experiences and struggles with uh, not only my chronic illness but my anxiety and depression. About 7 years ago, and I talk about this in my Dark Days video in detail, but basically a lot of my physical symptoms kind of came to a head and started to cause such bad anxiety that it was crippling. I could barely sit in my bathtub for like 5 minutes without freaking out because I was so claustrophobic. Because some of the physical health issues that were going on with me made me feel like I was suffocating. So, and anxiety, it was just like energy was pinging around in my head and off of my body, kind of like a neon sign blinking off and on. I was in bad shape. I totally couldn't do hardly anything without panicking. Um, and that's never been me. I mean, I've always been anxious, I guess, but I was always able to kind of power through it and get things done. But this what happened was a total game changer to me. Long story short, my chiropractor, of all people, told me that after many years of undergoing a lot of stress, he thought that I had adrenal fatigue, which I'll talk about later in this episode. So I was very close to checking out of this world. I was writing my own obituary. But one night I looked at the crucifix in my bedroom and I said, God, I know that you wouldn't bring me to this storm not to bring me through it. I don't understand what's going on right now, but I can hardly think that, I'm going through all of this, just to, commit suicide. What good would that do? And I said, I promise you, if you bring me through this dark time, I will try to be a beacon of hope for others, who are struggling. And I do what I can to try to reach out to people who I know are going through a hard time. And I really try to keep my end of that bargain. I don't usually I know you're not supposed to bargain with God, but um, I think that because I was imbued with the ability to understand, I mean, really understand what anxiety is all about, I really felt like I could use that to help others. So I'm not sure how this video is going to go. Like I said, I pull from a lot of different articles that I'll glance over them before I start my video, but I won't, read them word for word. So literally, when I'm on video, I'm reading all this for the first time. Have to assimilate the information and then make comments. So, and this is also kind of a hot button issue for me. But I decided to make the video this week because a few days ago, I was reading the news on my phone, and one of the headlines caught my attention. And it was about Bill Maher and how he had actress Bella Thorne on his show, and it said that he had mocked her anxiety. So, of course, that just, really pissed me off. But I'm like, okay, leave emotion out of it. Let's check it out and, fact check, fact check it and everything. So, I watched a little bit of the video, and in the beginning, Bill was very kind of timid, soft-spoken, and childlike, as he kind of relayed that he had been bullied in school, um, you know, and my Grinch heart kind of started to melt a little bit for him. Um, and then it's like he remembered he wasn't a kid anymore and that he was worth a lot of money and he had the fame and the power. And then he kind of just switched into that smarmy, snarky, sarcastic personality that he's known for. Um, and I'm going to read you exactly what he said to her when she said to Bella Thorne when she admitted to dealing with crippling anxiety. Just bear with me. I've got a bunch of windows open on my phone and on my computer this time. So, okay. Okay, so this is what he said to her. I find this to be a disingenuous argument because your generation doesn't know what's going on in the world, he said. So how can you be that effing concerned about what's going on in the world? I know what's going on in the world. I should have the anxiety. I follow it. You kids don't follow it. You don't know what the F is going on in the world. What are you upset about? And I'm like, okay, I think my heart started to grow cold again. Um, you know, so like according to his rationale, I'm thinking, hey Bill, aren't you worth like $140 million or something? If so, by that rationale, why are you such a miserable jerk and bully so much of the time? But then, you know, when he explained that he had been bullied, it was kind of like he switched he switched roles. Uh, you know, he went from the bullied to the bully. So I'm like, you know what? I get it. I understand, you know, why you're the way you are. Um, but but then Bella responded that um, basically everybody um, said that there's a lot of bad in the world. Oh, and I should have read down. He also said that I think a lot of the people who are the most anxious have the most privileged lives. Look at your life. Everybody wants it. Again, I'm thinking, Bill, if I was worth $140 million, I would literally go. I'd skip everywhere, whistling, you know, throwing open my windows like Julie Andrews singing and the sound of music. I mean, you know, what's going on? So Bella later said that, you know, everybody is dealing with something, and she said that, um, let's see, she said, I lost my dad when I was 8. I was molested growing up. And then, let's see, and he still didn't really back down, maybe just a little bit. Um, so, you know, I'm here to address all of these people who just trivialize anxiety, um, do a lot of gaslighting, undermining. I'm going to read to you the clinical definition of anxiety. Oh, that's not the one that I want. Let me see. Okay. Okay. Anxiety disorder. Any of a group of mental conditions characterized by excessive fear of or apprehension about real or perceived threats, leading to altered behavior and often to physical symptoms, such as increased heart rate or muscle tension. Um, so, if we're gonna follow that path of logic that, if we back up and talk about the privileged lifestyle. So basically, people are saying, because these people have a lot of money and fame and popularity, according to people like Bill, everything should be rosy, right? But that doesn't explain then why we have celebrities committing suicide right and left. Kate Spade, Anthony Bourdain, Robin Williams, Avicii. He was a Swedish, let me pull this up, Swedish singer. And he was worth so much money. He was at the height of his fame, and he committed suicide. And it said that he struggled with anxiety and depression for years, as did the other people that I just mentioned. Some of the other people, who still struggle with anxiety. Let me pull up my list. Oprah. Oprah's worth, what, over $2 billion? But I think one thing that people don't understand is, just because you have a lot of money and that's your new life, your old life doesn't go away. Childhood traumas, they don't go away. We know that Oprah encountered and endured a lot of abuse in her childhood. So none of that goes away when you have money. And it's just so frustrating for me to think about all of the, let's see, the singers who died, Chris Cornell, Chester Bennington, Kurt Cobain, all known to have struggled with depression, anxiety. And I think that a lot of people would just kind of pass it off and say, oh yeah, they got into the, rock star lifestyle, boo-hoo. But, I've really been thinking about this for a few days. And obviously, people do die from drugs. We know that. But I think that in a lot of cases, it's a means to an end. And what people are really dying from are anxiety, depression, childhood traumas, the things that kind of made them gravitate towards drugs in the first place. So it's just very frustrating to me. And then people who have that thought that because someone is rich and successful, they shouldn't have anxiety. You're totally disregarding the fact that sometimes, no matter how much money you have, there's such a thing as brain chemistry. And in the simplest terms that I try to use to educate people and kind of explain it to them, and what I feel when my anxiety is so severe is, you could have everything going great in your life. You can have it all, but if you can't quiet that chatter or that noise in your brain, which is what I call it, it does not matter. There's no amount of money that will cure that. And I guess I should have gone back. I'm sorry, I'm probably going to jump back and forth because this is totally not scripted. And I'm kind of riled up, so I'm going to also read not only was I kind of disgusted by, Bill's dismissal and, trivializing the whole anxiety thing, I was almost more disgusted by the comments um, that were listed, and I really thought that people were gonna jump to Bella Thorne's defense and call Bill out on it. Now, a few people did, and I'll read those comments, but I was just shocked and disgusted and appalled by some of the comments. I actually screenshotted them so they would be in my phone here. Let's see. Bear with me. I screenshot a lot of stuff, so okay. Okay, this one. I think this is the one that just really set me off. Um, Suddenly, every female who has issues has been molested as a child. I don't buy that. If that many kids were being molested, half of America would be in prison. Always a poor, poor, pitiful me story. Are you freaking kidding me? Do you know how many people have been molested as children who don't come out and talk about it? I mean, that's absolute nonsense. Seriously. Um, let's see. Okay, so here's another one. Okay, I just read it. I read a new one that just set me off too. Okay, this one says, I agree with him about how many people have mental issues but can't afford a therapist like she can. She should try to imagine her issues while being poor or not good looking with tons of young male followers to make her feel good. She's highly privileged. People who are not obsessed with celebrities have little sympathy for spoiled rich kids and their high class problems. Again, she was molested as a child and lost her father at a young age. Um, Becoming famous and wealthy, it's not going to change those things. It doesn't just erase them, and it's not like a magic wand that it makes everything better. This one's great. It is true, though, anxiety is just a mild symptom. People need to get over it. Yeah, I'm really glad that I'm reading I'm reading these on my phone and not actually standing in front of the person saying this, um, because I take great offense to these things. Oh my gosh, it's just really upsetting. Um, so then someone said here that agree here, Bill overstepped mostly because mental health issues such as anxiety can be chemical and has nothing to do with the reality in which a person is living. Thank you. Um, I don't know why it's such a tough concept to grasp that we have no problem understanding that the body gets sick. Sometimes the brain does as well. Um, you know, Low levels of serotonin and other chemicals in the brain. Um, there are so many physiological reasons that can cause anxiety, adrenal fatigue, um, other medical conditions. I have fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. Those cause anxiety. They're nothing that I can help. Certain foods Food allergies can cause anxiety, as well as vitamin deficiencies. So I, it, I just get so angry, at the ignorance. And then, we also live in a society where, on one hand, we're told, hey, if you're struggling, reach out, right? But yeah, I've tried that in the past, when I've really been struggling with my anxiety and depression. And come to find out that the same society doesn't, while they encourage you to reach out, um, I don't think they really mean it, or some of them don't, because I'm going to read you some of the comments that people often encounter when they do get candid about their anxiety. Let me close some windows here. Oh, here we go. Oops. Okay. Oops. All right. So, some of the responses that people get are, and I personally have heard many of these. It could be worse. You're too sensitive. You're overreacting. You shouldn't feel that way. I know exactly how you feel. Just let it go. You take everything so personally. You make a big deal out of everything. I don't see the problem. You shouldn't be so any feeling the person has expressed. How do you think that makes me feel? I don't want to have this conversation. Stop making things up. That didn't happen. Oh, my favorite one, just think positive. Um, that one always gets me. Because, yeah, obviously it's great to think positive, but there's a fine line, like I said in one of my previous videos, fine line between being positive and then just totally neglecting or ignoring your negative emotions, and that's definitely not healthy. Um, I mean, these people are probably taking medication for their physical ailments. So I really feel like telling these people, when they have a headache, for instance, why don't you just think positive? I mean, you don't need to take medicine. Just think happy thoughts and you'll be fine, right? Because that's what you tell me. Um, I mean, it's ludicrous. And there was a little cartoon that I came across, um, and one person is shouting at the other and says, "Stop being diabetic." You know, um, when you put it into that context, it really does sound as silly as it is. Um, People can't help being anxious. And what I want to talk about now is, yes, everybody gets anxious from time to time. But what we're talking about here is severe anxiety that really, once things start to interfere with your life and your way of living and getting things accomplished or your relationships, that's when things become severe and really become a problem. So, um, I'm going to try to explain what having severe anxiety is like. Um, it is this just so powerful sense of dread and foreboding. Think about whatever you dread the most, and when I say dread, I mean it really severely affects you. Like maybe you have issues with a dentist, but think of the thing that you dread or fear the most. That is the feeling that you have, um, all the time about everything, just the smallest task. Uh, starts to seem monumental, just doing the basic things around the house in a day. You're just you are filled with this sense of dread and uh, uh, perceived threats that may or may not be there. Over worrying, ruminating. Um, I wrote a poem about anxiety, and the way that I describe it, it's really addictive, compulsive behavior, and it's like the anxiety is always there. It's kind of like a house guest waiting to come into your house, waiting for you to notice it and to let it in. And you try to contain it, to one room or whatever, and you want to kick it out, but no, it digs in harder and decides to, take over your whole house and stay, and there's nothing you can do about it. Um, so, let me pull up this other, close some of these. And so this definition actually also mentions involved repeated episodes of sudden feelings of intense anxiety and fear or terror that reach a peak within minutes, which can cause panic attacks. Now, thank God I've never had a full-blown panic attack, but I've had the beginnings of one, and you literally cannot catch your breath. And it's one of the scariest things, that I've ever experienced. I would not wish anxiety on anyone. And I think, too, a lot of people think that people who deal with anxiety are weak. And let me tell you, I'm not saying this for pity or anything, but I've been through a lot with my physical health and just a lot of loss in my life and a lot of hard things that I've been able to push through. But sometimes your brain, your body pushes back, and there's absolutely nothing that you can do. Let's see. According to statistics, 33.7% of adults will experience an anxiety disorder sometime in their life. And I'm not severely anxious right now, but I always do get a little anxious when I do a video because I get very nervous. Makes me really nervous to be in front of the camera and to watch myself and everything, and to put myself out there. Let's see what others. Let's see, close some of these. What's interesting, the background that I have up now, you can't see it real well, but it's actually entitled Anxiety, and it was painted by Edvard Munch, who did the screen, and this was back in 1894, and I think I saved this. There was a little blurb about Edvard Munch. Oops, I'm looking in the wrong place. Okay. So it says here that Norwegian artist Edvard Munch suffered from anxiety and hallucinations. The painter created his most famous image, The Scream, after it came to him when he was out for a walk at sunset on a fjord overlooking Oslo. He wrote that as the sun began to set, it suddenly turned the sky a blood red. I stood there trembling with anxiety, and I sensed an endless scream passing through nature. The painting is thought to represent human anxiety in the modern world, which Monk experienced throughout his life. So, I mean, people have been suffering from anxiety, from the beginning of time. And I just thought that was interesting. I had no idea that he had done a painting called Anxiety, because I absolutely love the screen. Um, so I thought that was very interesting. Let me see what else I had pulled up here. Disorders. I think too, a lot of people think that anxiety should somehow be visible. Um, like there should be signs. You should be able to look at someone and tell whether or not they're experiencing anxiety at the moment. And that's definitely not the case. I really thought I was winning against my anxiety because I was able to hide it so well. I could be sitting in a restaurant with friends, and I could be sitting there nice and calm, or I would look nice and calm, participate in the conversation, laugh, but inside, I was very anxious. So I don't know, I tricked myself into thinking, hey, I'm really winning this because nobody can notice. Then I was like, no, I'm really not winning because I'm miserable inside, and that's what really counts, is how I feel. So once I started to address that, I think once you admit that you're struggling with anxiety, uh, you can kind of start to try to heal and focus on your healing. And still working on it, but I truly feel like um, it took a lot of years for my brain to kind of um, get to the point of being anxious constantly, because I don't think we were aware of all the negative self-talk and inner dialogue that we have. And I became very aware of that, and how just over time I kind of helped wire my brain for anxiety. So I'm trying to be more aware of, the thoughts that I have. Um, Trying to identify triggers, things that really sets it off. Um, Look at what else I have here. I know that I've seen videos of, or pictures that people have posted, trying to illustrate what anxiety or a panic attack looks like, and they look the same. You can't tell the difference. I mean, sometimes you can, but these people are trying to illustrate that you can't just tell by looking at someone what they're experiencing on the inside, and you don't. None of us know what anyone might be struggling with. None of us. Um, I'm going to try to look at some of the things that um, can help people. Actually, let me back up just a little bit. One thing that just kind of makes me wonder is how many of these people who committed suicide tried to reach out for help before they did it. How many of those people, tried to be transparent about their struggles and were met with shame or, um, you know, trivialization and all of the things that I said earlier. You just want attention, just think positive. Um, and that brings me to, like I said, I'm kind of all over the place here tonight. Actually, it's day, um, which I'm usually not up during the day, so that's weird. But there's a thing that I never knew existed. It's called toxic positivity, and it's basically what I was telling you about the whole just think positive, just think happy thoughts. And I get, people don't always mean things in an unkind way, but I don't think they're aware of how damaging some of these phrases can be. Like, can't tell you how many times I've seen the saying, happiness is a choice. No, no, I'm sorry, it's not. I feel like I have a very strong mental fortitude, but there are times when there are no amount of happy thoughts that are going to take away my anxiety. I wish, I absolutely wish, but that's that's just unrealistic. And when people hear, people who deal with anxiety hear, phrases like that, they start to think, oh, well, maybe it is me. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe, maybe I'm the one to blame. And they clam up. And it breaks my heart to think that some of these people who committed suicide did try to, reach out for help. Um, and if someone comes to you and tells you that, like a friend tells you they're anxious, um, or it's just really important to be careful with your words, because obviously these people are, and I can attest to this, feeling very vulnerable, by admitting that they're struggling. Um, and I think maybe it's just human nature that people want to dispense advice, but I would caution you, um, unless you're a medical professional or a counselor, please don't do that. Um, one of the best things you can do is just say, I'm here, if you want to talk. Um, and try to gently guide them into considering the possibility of looking into counseling. Um, it's there's just a very fine, careful line that people need to be aware of. Let's see. Get rid of that. So, this basically says the same thing. Listen. Um, Check in with them. But it also says, I know and this is what they're saying, when my anxiety is like really, really severe, yeah, I can't even really interact with anyone. I mean, I can, but it's really, really difficult. You've got that sense of dread and everything. So, it says that when you're checking in with them, ask them how they would like to be checked in. Um, let's see, by checking in with them regularly. Let's see. Actually, it says you can also ask the person what kind of check-in would be most helpful for them. And I think that's a really good open-ended question too. What can I do for you to help you? And it says educate yourself. Um, And of course, you have to, you know, be careful too how much you give of yourself. Right now I feel like I'm in a burnout phase, and I'm still trying to help people, but um, sometimes it's really difficult. If I'm overwhelmed and struggling, if that saying you can't pour from an empty cup. Um, Let me see what else I'm just going to read some of the symptoms. Maybe some of you are thinking, I don't know, do I have anxiety? I'm not sure. Because to be honest, until my adrenal fatigue hit really hard 7 years ago, I was totally unaware that I was dealing with anxiety. It's only when I had to stop doing everything, when I was so crippled by it, that I was like, hey, I was keeping busy all of this time, to try to avoid my anxiety. And I think that goes along with what's called high functioning anxiety, which I meant to pull up an article about that. Let me see if I can do that real quick. So I think that's kind of important. Um, so, like, some of the traits of someone suffering with high functioning anxiety: nervous chatter, people pleaser, nervous habits, need to do repetitive things, overthinking. Um, I see a lot of people in my life that are constantly on the go, and it really makes me think, I bet they have anxiety and maybe they don't even know it. Um, let's see. So, I mean, I would think of, when I think of high functioning anxiety, I would think of someone like Oprah. She's still wildly successful and is able to get things done, but then again, she still suffers with anxiety. And I feel like I'm forgetting. I feel like I'm forgetting something. I guess maybe one of the things, when people do come to me to talk about anxiety, one of the things that I think is important, and this is what I had to do with my own struggles, is try to figure out if your anxiety is being caused by your brain, or is it being caused by something physiological, say like adrenal fatigue. Um, a lot of doctors don't believe in adrenal fatigue, which I don't quite understand why, because um, it's definitely a thing. Um, and I talked about this, I think, in my empath video, but basically, when your adrenal glands aren't functioning correctly, and that's part of your fight or flight response. When you have severe adrenal fatigue, your body is putting out massive amounts of adrenaline. For a really long time, I had, the way I would describe it was like energy in my chest. I couldn't figure out what it was, and now I know that's adrenaline. That was, it's one of the many reasons why I have trouble sleeping. It's just adrenaline is coursing through my body. But the way they describe adrenal fatigue is, imagine if you're in traffic and you just narrowly avoid hitting someone. Your heart's pounding, you're adrenalized. When your adrenal glands aren't working properly, you are always in that state, that heightened state of awareness. And like I said, I would not wish that on my worst enemy, that kind of anxiety. Just trying to think if I covered everything. I know I'll stop recording and then I'm like, darn it, I wanted to say this. Um, you know, what I can say is that we need to be kinder and more understanding of people and less judgmental, because everyone is struggling with something. And oh, I did want to address that Bill, he was basically saying this generation has nothing to worry about. They're not following what's going on in the world. I'm like, are you kidding me? This generation, the last couple of generations, it seems, have been glued to their technology, their phones and everything. So how could they not know what's going on in the world? I mean, that's just ludicrous. And, I want to go back to the 80s, to be honest. I wouldn't want to live in today's time. Maybe every generation says that. I don't know. But, I mean, think about what the young people are facing right now. They're living during a pandemic. This is their normal. I can't imagine that, being told there's this deadly disease out there that can kill them and their family members. And I just think it's really arrogant to think that any generation has it easy, because I'm going to try to articulate this, but Bill can look back at his childhood with the eyes and wisdom of an adult and say, okay, well, I made it through. But everything that the new generation is going through is new to them. It doesn't make their challenges any less than what we went through. I know there's always a lot of good-natured ribbing and teasing about, well, I had to walk to school, 20 miles uphill in the snow. But, okay, my generation didn't have to do that, but we had other challenges, which were new to us, and just as, what's the right word, difficult, challenging. There's a song that one of my favorite groups does. They're called Fury in the Slaughterhouse, German band. And they did a song called Every Generation Has Its Own Disease. And I mean, that's perfect. Every generation has its own set of challenges. And I think that as adults, we need to be more aware of that and more sympathetic. So, and if you are struggling with anxiety, you're not alone. Do reach out. I mean, reach out to me, leave a comment, and just know that you're not alone. I'll probably do another video specifically on depression, because anxiety and depression are two different animals, both equally debilitating, but I want to give both of them their own spotlight. So, thanks for watching.